Sport Show. Thanks for staying with us. Now, when you're a legendary umpire, and I reckon we throw that word out loosely sometimes. You know, he's a legend or he's great, he's a hero. Yep. Our next guest is all of that. When you've done over 2,000 games of umpiring, you set a record just recently. And survived 900 games umpired in the Adelaide Footy League a couple of games ago. So he's now at 902. We talk about David Bales. He joins us. Dave, thanks for your time, mate.
Right, great to be here.
I'm not really sure where to start when you've done that many games. So let's get a little bit of the history in your background, mate. I know Adelaide was home, but spent some time in Alice and Darwin with your dad. Take us through a bit of that.
The link with the Northern Territory, our family were pioneers in Central Australia in the old days. My grandfather, Cooper Bales, came out from England and worked with his older brother, John Bales, and my dad's John, and I'm David John. John and Cooper were both well borers. They were engineers, and they had a well boring business, and they had to open up a lot of the new country so that there'd be water for the Europeans. Wow. The Aboriginal people knew where the water was, but the Europeans didn't. So that was how our family came to Central Australia. They also had a Bales hotel at one stage. Imagine a bush pub on the border of Northern Territory in South Australia. There were some pretty rugged stories that came out of that. Or just one as an aside, my cousin Billy Bales, I got an Aboriginal cousin Billy, because our white family members of our white family mixed in with the women of the local Aboriginal women of the area. One of the Bales brothers had a long-term relationship with his partner, and the other brother he was more casual. He said, "I'm not racist, and I don't mind what age people are as long as they're female." So that was a bit of the bush humour again. But at one stage the boys were gathering in the pub and talking to some young guys from Adelaide, or from down south as they called it, and they were going to go to another place, and it was the middle of the summer. And the local people said, "No, you can't do it. You know, you'll never make it." And then these guys said, "Oh yeah, we're fit, we're this, that and the other." And they said, "Okay." Then he said, "If you're going to go across from Bloods Creek, on the border of Northern Territory in South Australia, across to Queensland or wherever you wanted to go," he said, we'll put bets on how long you'll last before we find you dead." Wow. And he said they were just trying to impress on these young guys that it was very dangerous what they were trying to do.
Extremely dangerous.
And very dangerous. And anyway, they'd probably had a few drinks, and they said, "Oh no, we'll be right, we've got a bit of water with us." And they went off. And when nothing had been heard from the place where they were supposed to arrive, they sent out a search party, and I think one of them had died and the other one just had a small amount of water. But that was just a little one of those typical stories from the outback about the dangers of living in those places.
It's an amazing place, isn't it? No, you just don't realise how big it is until you actually get there and do it.
But then getting it to sport. Sport was always a big part of life in the Northern Territory and in Central Australia. It still is with those communities. Probably it's football and cricket to perhaps a lesser extent aren't as big as sports involving the horses, horse races and buck jump competitions and wrestling bullocks, that kind of thing. But even so, the Aboriginal people love their football, especially in the APY lands, and that's where my father's Aboriginal side of the family were from that area, and now they were working on the stations owned by the white Europeans, by the white Bales.
Did you umpire in the Territory?
I didn't umpire. I was too young to umpire in the Territory. Maybe a few school kids games that the kids played at school. Because my father was a coach. He was a coach. He started with Ken Applin down here. You remember that name? Yeah. He's got some good stories about Ken that he can tell you. He's still alive, lives around the corner. He's nearly 96. My father was the lead coach and also the senior umpire in Darwin. Umpired quite a few carnivals up there as well, and grand finals. And as being at school then, at primary school, I'd go along and watch him. And saw some of those, famous players like Cantilla and the Riolis and the Bonsons. My father would recall more names than what I would. He umpired an interstate game. I remember that distinctly, a Queensland Northern Territory game. I watched him because he did play football down here for Norwood Juniors, but then he had a bad knee injury. when he was playing for Norwood Union. He got it when he came out of the Air Force after the war. He lost contact with his mates that were playing league footy, so he just started with Norwood Union because they were the local club. And when he had the bad knee injury, there was an umpire at his workplace who said, look, instead of playing footy and getting injured all the time, he said, you know the game very well, and you're very fit. So you could become an umpire, and he joined the SANFL, and then umpired up north. And he got me involved in footy when we came back to Adelaide from Alice Springs.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's been a hell of a journey.
It's been a
lot of time
journey.
in there, mate. We can cover it. We can probably talk for days and weeks on games. But let's talk a little bit about 900 games. So we're 902 now. So it's been a fair journey. What's the classic best couple of comments that you've had thrown at you while you've been umpiring? Other than why you're a lemon or you're blind or something that you've gone, I should write that one down because that's a beauty. Right.
Well, they often said you're as blind as a bat. That was a popular one. Because we used to wear white uniforms, they used to say you're a white maggot, and some smart guy once said, yeah, you're a witchetty grub as well. You live underground and can't see anything. So we got a lot of. They were the polite comments. Yeah. And then you get all the abuse. But as some of my mates, I don't know whether you know Dave Cresante. He's the president of the Tea Tree Gully Football Club. Yep. He was involved in coaching with Tea Tree Gully A grade and played for A grade games many years. And he mentioned that whenever anything happened out on the field, he said, Dave, you had a great way of dealing with it. You just used to laugh and smile. So that, someone has abused you, the hell out of you, and you'd be just there laughing and smiling and just get on with the game and ignore it. And then they'd shut up because they thought, well, this guy's not getting upset over what we've said.
Yeah.
Yes. So that
it's true. If you laugh at them, it infuriates them.
I can talk about some of the players that I knew. That there's a few funny stories about some of them.
Well, we might come back to them. I want to ask if it's harder to umpire now than when you've started with all the rule changes, because we constantly talk to footy players that are coming in, and the umpires that have been in prior to you go, it's just getting harder and harder.
What does get hard is you get used to certain rules when you've had them for many years. And you just go, you make a decision automatically. I think a good umpire is someone who umpires from instinct. And your instinct is generally right. And you go with that and you stay with it. And you've got to be honest and communicate with the players. Yeah. You don't want to get upset, if they've said, oh, that was bullshit, Dave, what are you doing? Where were you looking? Or how did you miss that? It was right in front of you. That's, it's a classic comment. Yeah. So you've got to be honest, and you've got to admit that sometimes you're not going to see everything because you're looking at a one particular viewpoint when the players are all milling around, and you pay the free as you see it. You've got to get a quick free in. I think that's a good thing to be a good umpire. You've got to be consistent. Don't be scared of paying free whenever you see them. Just pay them, and then move on from that.
Yeah, mate. Now, over that journey, 900 odd games, and there's more, obviously. We're in the thousands. We're in the thousands here.
Yeah, right.
You've seen some fair players, some good players. Just quickly, just rattle a few off at me. I mean, because there are a lot of unsung heroes in the amateur league that probably could have gone on to play league footy without a problem. I saw a few myself. Yeah. But you, umpiring all those games, you must have seen a couple of pretty good players.
Well, they used to have the all-in stoushes, as they used to call them, and the players would all come in from everywhere, and actually in those situations, not that many people got badly hurt because so many people were in close and grabbing hold of each other and pushing and shoving, and maybe a few of them were taking a few swings. But if you're in a big group and there's people hanging onto you, it's pretty hard to get a big swing in. And often those incidents would happen because someone had done something off the ball, or sometimes it might have happened in play. But in some of those situations, I remember the one guy that I reported once. He was a roundhouse right that he threw at a guy, and got him just above the eye, cut the guy's eye. And then later he pleaded guilty, and he said, he'd had an argument with his girlfriend the night before, and he was a bit upset. He was emotionally uptight.
Those girlfriends, mate, they'll do it every time. They'll get you into trouble every time.
So he had the excuses. So most guys would admit that they had hit someone when you did report them. I remember there was a big brawl in a grand final I had at Norwood Oval with Salisbury North were playing Jeps Cross. And Adam Huskus was playing, and he was quite a character. He was very colourful, as you may remember. And he was a bit of a stirrer as well. He used to stir people up, and at times he sort of walked the line. And there was a massive brawl there, but it began, and the other umpire had the play, but they all came in from everywhere. And then I remember coming down and just dealing with the little group that I was with at that stage. But there are a few reports out of that game as well.
Hey, David, it has been an outstanding career, mate, and still more to go. So I think we're going to have to get you back, mate, and, and continue
I'll
the
just
journey.
tell you one last story about my Aboriginal cousin Billy's grandson. He was down here playing in an Aboriginal carnival, because I like umpiring the Aboriginal carnivals because of the family connection. And there was a tall, dark Aboriginal boy who came up to me because I knew him. He was a relative. He was like a second cousin in English. And the other umpire came up, Barry Lewis. You'd probably heard of Barry. He's done quite a few games.
No, Barry.
And Barry came up and said, "Oh, what are you getting a photo with that Aboriginal guy for?" And I said, "Oh, he's my cousin." And he said, "Oh, bullshit," he said. And he said to him, "Okay, ask him a question about me." And he said, "What relationship is this Dave to you, David Bales to you?" And he said, and he stopped and he thought, and he said, "He's my grandfather." Because in the Aboriginal language, an uncle, really, the word uncle and grandfather are the same in their language. And so that I was an uncle, and he wanted to get a picture with his uncle. He came down from Cooper Pedy.
Yeah, we need to hear more of those stories, because I know you've got a great connection with the Indigenous, mate, so we'll have to get you back. We appreciate your time, mate.
Yeah, I'll bring the father next time.
Bring the father. We definitely need to chat with him. Stay with us. Still a bit more to come.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.